Hello, let's talk about confidence. Right out of the gate, let's do it. Today, I wanted to share a little bit about the confidence gap, which is something that as an entrepreneur, you need to know about, especially as a female entrepreneur. So, in today's live presentation, I'm going to share with you exactly what the confidence gap is, why it happens. Now, this is a little bit tricky. I'm going to play around with some ideas about where it comes from, why it happens, and this is where I would love to know your feedback on which of these possible causes of the confidence gap resonates with you. So I want your feedback on that. And then by the end, I'm going to share with you a few key things that you can do to help close the confidence gap, because confidence, I'm sure you know, is so important for the success of your business. It's really hard for you to own your success and own your future as an entrepreneur if you don't feel confident. So today I'm going to share some tips with you right at the end of this presentation on how you can close that confidence gap. So if you're joining me live, please say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay, let me know where you are tuning in from. And, you know, we're talking in general about confidence here, but I want you to understand that confidence comes in different areas of your life. So what we're going to be talking about today with the confidence gap relates quite directly to your experience as an entrepreneur and the things that you're called to do as an entrepreneur, having the confidence to do those things. So that includes things like asking for funding and finding money, talking to your clients and asking for a fair price from them, as well as putting yourself out there. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Valerie McTavish, and that third one is exactly what I do. I help female entrepreneurs get video confident and confident in their marketing strategies so that they can get themselves out there, increase their reach, engagements, and have relationships with their ideal clients so that selling is easy. That's what I do. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about confidence from that perspective as well. So lots of stuff to dig into, and let's talk a little bit about what the heck is a confidence gap. So this term was created after the wage gap was identified. So if you're not familiar, the wage gap is this thing that's been going on for a very long time. It's getting a little smaller, but the wage gap still exists. And this is a gender disparity between what men and women make doing the exact same job. So right now, the wage gap, depending on where you are in the world, and there are other factors that play into it as well, including race, depending on where you are, the wage gap is anywhere from 70 cents on the dollar to 82 cents on the dollar. Now, 82 cents that's leaps and bounds from where it was when we first started talking about the wage gap. So what that means is when a man is doing the same job as a woman, right now, that woman is making between 70 and 82 cents for every dollar that the man makes. So this is a big deal, and this is a systemic issue that exists. In fact, today is March 2nd. We haven't even hit Pay Equality Day yet. So in the workforce, a man, if he stopped working at the end of 2021, a woman would still be working to catch up and make as much as he made in 2021. Shocking, right? So this is something that many people are aware of. The wage gap is something that we're fighting against. And the great news is that we've recognized that there are things at play in the wage gap. There are things specifically that foster the wage gap happening, and those things are being addressed bit by bit, right? One of those things is the confidence gap. One of the things that helps to continue the chasm of the wage gap is the difference in confidence that men and women bring to the job. So there are a couple of things when we talk about, the workforce. How this shows up is that, for example, the confidence gap will cause a woman to not apply for a job she's fully qualified for. The male counterpart, even if he's not fully qualified, will apply. In interviews, a woman will downplay her accomplishments whereas a man will exaggerate his accomplishments. So these kinds of things have been documented in research. These are the kinds of things that they've been able to notice to say, you know, what's going on here is a confidence gap, sometimes also called a self-promotion gap, right? Promoting ourselves, talking about ourselves. There's a difference between how women and men do that and how comfortable they are doing that. So why does this happen? Why is this going on? You know, it's great that there's lots of research out there. Academics have identified this issue, but what is going on? And they really struggle to explain exactly why this happens, other than to say, we're raised differently. The reason that it's systemic is because with little girls and little boys, now I think this is changing. So shout out to all the mums out there who are changing this right now for the next generation. But what happened years, decades ago, when we were little girls, is that we were taught that these character traits of willing to talk about yourself, willing to brag about your accomplishments, willing to put yourself forward when you may not be the best candidate for something, right? Willing to say, I'm going to try even though I might fail, or I'll probably fail. It doesn't matter. I'm going to try anyway. Little girls are taught not to do that. They were back then, right? And so we're still dealing with the fallout of this cultural identity where little girls should be humble. They should be demure. They should not brag about themselves. It's not attractive for a woman to be conceited, right? And at the same time, we're dealing with a whole generation of people who came up in a culture where girls were taught to compare themselves to other women. And so in that comparisоnism and in that sort of forced self-judgment, you bring in this idea that you're not supposed to be conceited and you're not supposed to feel, you know, you're not supposed to promote yourself or talk about yourself positively. Those two things collide and boom, we have a confidence problem. So all of these things are part of what causes this confidence gap. Now, let me just ask, does that resonate with you? Are you understanding? Does that feel right to you? Is that part of your history? Did you grow up thinking that you shouldn't brag about yourself? Did you grow up thinking that people will think you're conceited? Or all that, depending on the era you're from, if you bragged about yourself? I would love to know if that's a light bulb has gone on for you. Because for a lot of people, we don't think about it, right? It's just how we were raised. It's the thoughts that we have that we don't acknowledge we have. So do you have that belief in your head that it's not, that we shouldn't be conceited, we shouldn't brag about ourselves, we shouldn't talk about ourselves, that that's not an attractive quality? I would love to know, so pop that in the comments. So we've been talking about this in the context of the workforce, right? And maybe the wage gap is part of the reason you left the workforce. Maybe that's why you decided to become an entrepreneur. You decided to go it alone so you didn't have to promote yourself to some boss somewhere, right? And sit in some boardroom and talk about your accomplishments. But here's the thing. It still applies to entrepreneurs in a big, big way. Not so much the wage gap, but the confidence gap. And here's why. Being an entrepreneur means putting yourself out there. You need to be able to talk about how great your product or service is. You need to be willing to share when other people talk about how great your product or service is. You need to believe that your product or service is amazing and worth the money that you're charging so that you can confidently attract clients, right? And you need to be willing to charge what you're worth. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck just doing tasks instead of growing your business, instead of being able to take your expertise and actually put yourself out there as someone who has value. And when the confidence gap is, when you're stuck in that confidence gap, it's really hard to do that. There's one more thing that's really critical here when it comes to being an entrepreneur and the confidence gap. I'll get to that in just a second. I want to say hello to Teresa, who says that yes, she's learning the difference between arrogance and confidence. So great. I love that distinction. And Christine says, yes, raised that way. So this is something that, we don't think about because it was just our experience, right? We don't sit down and identify these things. But this is what contributes to it. And that's why it's kind of insidious. And that's why it's so systemic, is because we deal with these things. And so there's one more thing that the research has found when it comes specifically to entrepreneurs, right? And that is that women have a different view of failing. Women in the research had a greater fear of failure, and it dramatically impacted how they ran their business. So think about that. Think about your fear of failure. Does it come from this confidence gap? We know that there are statistics that show that male run businesses, ventures, are more likely to attract VC money and funding than female run. And it's not because the VCs are more likely to back a male. It's because there are more men asking for that money. There are more men, exaggerating and being willing to put themselves out there. And the possibility of failing is not something that's going to stop them. So this fear of failure, which, again, can come from that fear of judgment. It can come from that fear of, needing to be perfect, right? Perfectionism, that's a whole other thing we can talk about. But this fear of failure shows up almost on a daily basis for a lot of women, right? I hear it all the time in my video marketing mastery program. We deal a lot with confidence in this because there are a lot of women who won't publish videos because they're afraid that those videos aren't going to work. They won't even get on camera because they're afraid that they're going to fail at it. So think about it. Think about the things that you've maybe not done because of that fear of failure. That is being fueled by the confidence gap. So if we want to close the confidence gap, we need to address these things. We need to address the comparisоnism that we see all the time, right? We see it all the time in these groups. We need to address our resistance around talking about our accomplishments, the things that we've actually done that make what we have to offer valuable. We need to get over the idea that sharing other people's testimonials is for anything other than to help your ideal client see the success they can have, right? Not about you. And we need to face this fear of failure, because when we don't, then we're allowing that confidence gap to seep into and limit our success as entrepreneurs. So I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can do to actually actively work towards bridging the confidence gap. And the first one is you're doing it, right? You're here, you're learning about it, you're being aware of it. But most importantly, I want you to really kind of keep it top of mind and catch it. Catch those thoughts that come up, those ones that have been coming up so routinely for you that you don't really label them as being a part of the confidence problem, right? Thoughts like, when you're comparing your business to someone else's business, when you hesitate to talk about what you have to offer, when you use language that downplays what you can do. I want you to be really aware of the word just. Just is a downplaying word. This is how we make what we're saying a little bit more passive. Think about when you are using the word just. Think about when you're using passive language. Are you using it because you don't want to seem pushy, you don't want to seem conceited, you don't want to seem arrogant? Right? Ask yourself and be aware of it. So that's step number one. And step number two is an actual practice. This is something that you need to do almost on a weekly basis. And you'll see it in a lot of the female entrepreneur groups, right? People celebrating their wins, people celebrating things that have happened for them. And this is actually a proven tactic for decreasing the confidence gap. There's an amazing TED Talk, by the way. It is Natalie Torres Haddad. Natalie Torres Haddad. She did a TED Talk on the confidence gap. And basically what she said is the antidote to the confidence gap is to brag more. Because while we've been trained not to brag, what's important is when we brag, it actually actively boosts our confidence. So practice bragging more. Practice sharing your expertise. Practice sharing your accomplishments without any kind of limiting or downplaying language around it. Right? If you climbed a mountain, say you climbed that mountain. Don't say, oh, I had some help, or I just did it, or, if you did it, claim it, own it, right? Brag about that. The next thing that I'm going to suggest that you do after you start bragging about it, and this is a big one, so give yourself some grace here. It's going to take some time to get over this. But the next step is to accept failure as part of the process. I'm going to say that again. Accept failure as part of the entrepreneurial process. How many of you have such a deeply ingrained fear of failure that it stops you from trying things? Trying things is how you learn if something's going to work or not. Right? So putting yourself out there, trying new tactics, trying new approaches, showing up in different ways, even if you're a little afraid it won't work. Because when it works, you'll suddenly be doing something that works, and that's fantastic for your business. And when it doesn't work, then you know for sure that that didn't work. And you can scratch it off your list, right? Or you can take it and you can say, why didn't it work? And you can tweak it. And this is how we grow as entrepreneurs, right? Through our failures, we can learn and we can get better at what we do. And here's the best part. The more comfortable you get with failing, the more confident you're going to be. It seems impossible that the more you fail, the more confident you're going to be. But it's seeing failure as part of the process. It's the resilience around that failure that builds the confidence. So that's the next step. And then the fourth step is to actually get clarity around what you're doing. Because a big piece of our confidence comes from this imposter syndrome. It comes from feeling like we don't know what we're doing. So figure that out. Know exactly what you're doing, who you're doing it for, and why you're doing it. If you have that clarity, it's going to be a lot more it's going to be a lot easier for you to be confident in your business. It's going to be a lot easier for you to talk about your business, to brag about your business, to put your business out there, put yourself out there, because you have that clarity. Clarity breeds confidence. So make sure you have that clarity, right? You don't want to just be, throwing spaghetti on the wall. You want to have a strategy, you want to have a plan, and you want to have that clarity around why you're doing what you're doing. And the last piece of advice I have for you when it comes to the confidence gap is in doing all of these things, right? In checking your mindset, being aware of when these limiting beliefs come up around confidence. Practice promoting yourself, bragging. Accept that failure is part of the process, and make sure you have that clarity. So the last tip relates to all of those things, and that is to get some support and accountability around all of that. This is critical. So often as entrepreneurs, we think we need to go it alone. We have this idea that we can't possibly take help. That's part of the confidence gap. That's part of the fear of failure and the perfectionism, right? As entrepreneurs, we need to help each other. We need to support each other, and we need that help ourselves. That is the only way that we can keep these things in check. It's the only way we can stop that confidence gap from increasing and spiraling out of control. So it is so, so important for you to have that support and accountability. And that is exactly what we do in the Wayfinder Masterminds. I only open my masterminds once a year. And so now is the time, if you are looking for that accountability, if you're looking to have a team of female entrepreneurs in your corner, holding you accountable to showing up for your business, to doing the things you say you're going to do, even if you're afraid of failing, even if you might fail at it, right? Holding you accountable and providing you the support, then you should check out the link in the description and find out more about my Wayfinder Masterminds. I'm taking applications right now. And so that is really key for you in bridging that confidence gap and owning the success that you're looking for. Teresa asks, will we have a replay and is this shareable? Thank you so much, Teresa, for asking that. This will actually live inside of the group, so you will be able to see it there. At the present time, it is not shareable, but what I can do is through this group, I can get it up to their YouTube channel, so I appreciate you sharing it there. So maybe I'll send you a little note if I do get a chance to get that posted, and then you can go ahead and share it. I hope that means that you have been enjoying it, and I want to open it up because we've got a little bit more time here. Do you have any questions whatsoever about this confidence gap? And most importantly, what are you going to do today to start working on closing that confidence gap for you? Are you going to work on your mindset? Are you going to show up and brag, do a little self-promotion, practice talking about yourself without any of the limiting language or softening language? Are you going to do something that you've been putting off because of your fear of failure? Are you going to spend some time getting clearer on who you help, how you help them, and why it is so important for you to help them? Get some clarity so that you can be confident in what you're doing as an entrepreneur. Or are you going to go and check out the link that I shared and apply for the Wayfinder Mastermind so that you can get the support and accountability that you need to be growing your online business? These things are all so important because when we ignore the confidence gap, it's going to stay exactly the way it is. We are going to continue to deal with this confidence gap. So we have to do something. And I know that's not fair. I know that the real issue is that the system needs to change. We need to get rid of systemic sexism. But we are in a place now with our businesses. As an entrepreneur, you owe it to yourself to take action. Teresa asks, so if we want to watch this again, where is it visible? I don't understand. Okay, so Teresa, you're going to be able to watch it in the group. It's going to show up in the event that was created. So you're going to be able to watch it in the group and you can watch it again. I will, with your permission, I'll send you a direct message as well with the link to the YouTube version of it so that you can also share it if you want to. It's not shareable outside of the group. That's the key thing with this being inside the group. Hopefully that makes more sense. All right, if there aren't any more questions, I will leave it there, and I want to just say that I really appreciate you watching this live and on the replay because I am super passionate about helping female entrepreneurs get confident with their business. I am completely on a mission, and that's why I do these lives and why I'm so happy to share this information with you, because if it trips even the smallest wire for you, if it, lights up one little light bulb and gives you an idea, gives you some gumption to go for it, then my job here is done. Having said that, would also love to see you inside the Wayfinder Mastermind, so I hope we get a chance to meet and talk about that soon. Go ahead and click the link to find out more about that. And we will see you next time. Have a great day.